So here we go. News of the week for November 29th to December 5th. And before I start, I just want to quickly say that all these things I'm going to be talking about is going to be nothing to do with MLS Cup. Well, actually, except maybe this thing is the only topic that I'm going to be talking about that has something to do with MLS Cup. But the reason why I'm not talking about anything related to MLS Cup in the news of the week is because that's for Friday. That's when I would talk about it when we do the preview of MLS Cup. But we'll start off with something that just happened today, and MLS just announced their MVP award that they hand out to the player that had a brilliant season and had an MVP kind of caliber season. And that award, of course, is awarded to Joseph Martinez. And I think this shouldn't be a big surprise that Joseph Martinez won this because, you know, he broke the singles season goal scoring record, scoring more goals than anybody in MLS in a single season, and right now the only guy to actually break the 30 goal mark in a single season in MLS. I mean, I know there are going to be some people that say that, well, it probably should have been Miguel Almiron because Almiron was the one that kind of gave the ball to Martinez and give him in a good spot where he can basically put the goal into the back of the net. And undoubtedly, Almiron, I think overall he probably is the most important player for Atlanta United, and you could argue maybe he will be the MVP of that team. But overall, when you look at what Joseph Martinez done this season and just the goal scoring that he was on this season was just incredible. And I think the previous two players that were at 27 goals, BWP and Chris Wondolowski, I think both of them also won MVP when they hit that 27 goal mark in that season. I know Wando did it in 2012 and he won MVP of that year. But the next big news is that Tyler Adams is moving to Red Bull Leipzig. Now, this again shouldn't be a surprising news because it looks like we've been saying that Adams were potentially going to leave the Red Bulls, and you know, we didn't think that he might be leaving for the parent club of RB Leipzig, but that is exactly what happened. And the good thing about him going to Leipzig is that he gets to reunite with the former Red Bulls manager, Jesse Marsch, who is an assistant at RB Leipzig. And they said that it was supposed to be a free transfer and that there was no transfer fee involved in it. So I know the Red Bulls fan will be pretty disappointed the fact that there was no fee. They don't earn anything from this move and they just so want their best player on that team. But on the other hand, they kind of do get something. I mean, I believe there is a rule where when you have to do a transfer process with a homegrown team player, which Tyler Adams is for the Red Bulls, then they would receive $750,000 allocation money. So it's not that the Red Bulls don't receive anything. They still receive some money based on the allocation, and that they can use that on the salary cap. So I guess that's really the good thing from this transfer, other than the fact that, yes, I understand why Red Bulls fans are not happy, the fact that they let him go for free, even though they technically should have probably got a fee. I mean, they saw what Alphonso Davies at the Whitecaps and how he left with $15 million, and they thought Tyler Adams was going to be that play. And I thought Alphonso Davies, in terms, if you compare both of them, I kind of will say Alphonso Davies is just a little bit better than Tyler Adams. But Adams, I think he's equally as good as what Alphonso Davies is. And it's also going to be interesting to see if both of those players will square off each other, because Davies is at Bayern, although most likely he might get loaned to another club. And we'll see if Adams would stay at Leipzig, because Leipzig is also a very big club in Germany, although a very controversial big club that is. But the next news, MLS increased away allocation to 1,700. So this is the only news that I'm going to be talking about that is kind of related to MLS Cup. And this is the biggest in league history in terms of away allocation. And obviously, I know there's still a lot of Timbers fans not happy about this situation, and rightfully so. I mean, considering the fact that you're playing in a 70,000 seat stadium, and that the FIFA standard says that you have to get 5% of, at least 5% of the ticket allocation to the away fans, and 1,700 still does not add up to that 5%. And, you know, obviously, I understand why Timbers fans are absolutely pissed off about this, and they're rightfully so. And I don't think this will make them any happier, because it's just 400 more people able to get into Mercedes-Benz Stadium to watch this game. But, you know, throughout these year, and this is probably something MLS will have to maybe think about in the future as the league gets more popular, is that they might have to think about away fans, because right now it's clear that MLS doesn't really care about away fans, you know, and I get why they don't really care about away fans, mainly because you don't usually see them. I mean, there's a Reddit page called MLS Away Day Fans, and they show like picture of away fans going to other teams' stadium to do like an away day, and there isn't really a lot of people that goes to away games. So that's understandable why MLS would think that, you know, yeah, that's why we don't really allocate any tickets to supporter. It's not like in Europe where they do have to allocate some tickets to supporters, because they actually do away day. And part of the reason why we don't really see like away days that fans usually do is that geographically the US is huge. Okay, it's literally almost the entire size of Europe, and the fact that, you know, it's hard for Atlanta fans to go to LAFC games, and that they of course travel. I mean, there's still going to be some Atlanta fans that will go there to support, but it's not like it's going to be a packed kind of away stand that they're going to just fill up, and that they're going to make like a 3,400 mile journey. I remember when Atlanta played the Quakes, they didn't even fill up like half of our visiting stand because of how far Atlanta was from San Jose. But in terms of this, you know, the final is a little bit different, because in a final, usually people will just show up no matter what, how far they have traveled. So again, I understand why Timbers fans are absolutely upset about that. And since the Timbers are one of the most supported team in the league, yeah, I feel like the league probably could have done a little bit better in terms of this allocation kind of number, and that they could have increased it to at least 3,000. Speaking of stadium news, the Impact is set to play at Stadio Zapado for their home opener for the first time in franchise history. So, for those of you that don't know, Montreal usually play their home opener at the Olympic Stadium, and the reason why they play there is because it's bigger capacity, but it's also, since the season starts in March, yeah, it's still very cold in Montreal, so that's why they play at the Olympic Stadium. And the Olympic Stadium is a roof stadium, but it looked like for the very first time they're going to play it in an outdoor venue. I'm not quite sure if this is going to be a good idea. I mean, you know, don't be surprised the first game of the season for Montreal is going to be the coldest regular season game in MLS. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit exaggerating of how cold Montreal winter is, but it's cold, okay? If you ask any Montreal person that lives there, you will know that it does get very cold in the winter. And I also wonder, does that mean Montreal will be moved back in terms of their home opener date, and that they might not have their home opener in the first game of the season? We shall see how it is. Because in the past, I know that Montreal usually have like their home opener later than other team has, although they still play at the Olympic Stadium for those games. So yeah. Meanwhile, shifting from stadium kind of talk to players extension. So LAFC, of course, have signed contract extension of Marc-Anthony Kaye to 2021, and this is certainly a big deal for LAFC because Marc-Anthony Kaye was so huge for this team, and you saw how when this team did not have him, and that he, of course, late in the season, unfortunately, torn his ACL. Yeah, they were really bad in terms of the midfield, and knowing that how crucial he was to that midfield, they immediately extend his contract, and yeah, this is definitely a good smart move from LAFC, although I'm assuming they're going to have to look into the market in the offseason and solve that midfield depth issue, because besides Marc-Anthony Kaye, there is really no reliable midfielder that they have on that team. And then Andrew Wenger and Dylan Rimick retire from the Houston Dynamo. And what's weird about these two retirement is that both of these players are kind of in their prime. Like Wenger, I believe he's 28 years old, and Rimick is only 27, I believe. Now, the Rimick one, I kind of do understand because Dylan Rimick, he has suffered from some head injuries in the past, and he had multiple concussion, and when that usually happens, most of the pro players, especially at this day of age, know that it's probably right to just hang up your boots and not really risk it anymore. So yeah, the Rimick one I kind of understand. The Andrew Wenger one, that I don't understand. Like, he's only in the league for 8 years, and he's only 28. And he's in his prime right now. And I know he hasn't really lived up to the hype that he came out of college, but still, it feels a little bit too early for him to retire, unless he just feel like he kind of had enough, and that maybe the U.S. Open Cup was kind of like his kind of happy ending that a lot of pro athletes want whenever they retire, because they want to go out as a champion. So I guess that's what Andrew Wenger kind of decide. But yeah, it's very interesting why he decided to retire, even though he's only 28 years old. And then next up, CCL matchup has been set. So the CONCACAF Champions League has set in terms of, well, the CONCACAF Champions League back on, I believe, Thursday or Saturday, they did like a draw of who exactly each team is going to face in the round of 16. And Toronto, of course, will be playing against Independiente Panama. And by the way, some of these opponents, I'm absolutely going to be butchering their names, and I do apologize for that, But Toronto is going to be playing Independiente Panama City. And Sporting KC, unfortunately, they kind of got really unlucky. And just as you thought things were rough for them after getting eliminated from the MLS Cup final, or the MLS Conference final, they now got Toluca. Yeah, that Toluca team that is from Liga MX, and a very good Toluca team. So yeah, something tells me that this is going to be an early exit for Sporting KC. Unless if they can do something that Toronto did last season, which is beating a couple of good Mexican team. But yeah, this is a rough matchup for Sporting KC. And then Houston Dynamo got Gustatoya, I believe that's how you pronounce the name, and I don't even know what country is this team is. And if you're a Gustatoya fan, I do apologize the fact that I don't know where you're from, but seriously, some of these I don't know every single team in the CONCACAF region, okay? I only know most of the MLS and Liga MX, and I know a couple of teams that is in Central America, but I definitely don't know who is Gustatoya. Yeah. And then Atlanta United, of course, will be playing Hidano as their team, and we'll see how Atlanta is going to do in CCL. Obviously, there's a lot of people want to see how Atlanta does in CCL, consider how good they are. But the problem with Atlanta next season is that when they do play Hideno and when they go into CCL, they're definitely not going to have Tata Martino, and they might not have Miguel Almiron. So they're not going to have some of their best kind of player, and also the coach that pretty much just built what Atlanta United is now. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Oh, wait, no. We have one more news, and just to end this video on kind of a banter note, Mario Balotelli is reported to head to Philly. Now, I know that according to their general manager, Tanner, he says that he declined that report that they are actually going to get Mario Balotelli. But in some way, I know as much as this is just crazy, the fact that Mario Balotelli is going to MLS, it's not the worst idea. I mean, I know he has attitude issue, but we've seen before where players that is kind of out of favorite in Europe, and when they come to MLS, everything changes. Just look at BWP. He was out of favorite when he was in England. Look what he's doing in MLS now. Same with Joseph Martinez. Out of favorite in Italy. He just broke the single season goal scoring record in MLS this season. So it's not the worst idea for someone to pick up Mario Balotelli. But then again, I don't think he's going to go to the Union. Most likely, if he's going to come to MLS, it's going to be either LA or New York, because that's where the fun is. That's where Mario Balotelli is probably going to just party up here and kind of like lose his concentration of him actually should be playing for that team. But yeah, most likely he's going to either go to LA or New York, but not Philly. Okay, but I like the report though. You know, I won't mind seeing Mario Balotelli in MLS, and it's going to be interesting to see how he does. And then lastly, this is not a typo, but Yago Pikachu is reported to go to Orlando City. And yes, that is actually his last name. It's named after the leading character from Pokemon. And you know, the funny thing about Orlando City is they already have Yoshi Yotun on their team. Imagine now that they have Pikachu on their team. They're pretty much almost owning half of the Super Mario kind of character on that team. And if Mario Balotelli joins Orlando City, now you're talking about Orlando City being a Nintendo team, and you might as well just name them Nintendo Orlando City, because you got Pikachu, you got Yoshi, and now you got Mario in that team. I mean, but this one is a little bit more serious. They're actually thinking about getting Pikachu. I have no idea who this player is or where did he actually play from the last club that, well, the current club that he is in. But yeah, it will be kind of interesting to see Pikachu in to joining Orlando City, and I wonder how many Pikachu reference the broadcaster is gonna mention whenever if he dressed up in for Orlando City and play in a game. There will be definitely a lot. But yeah, that is pretty much it for news of the week. And like I said, Friday, MLS preview, MLS Cup final preview, that is. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I will see you guys next time.